A single ox can drag a load heavier than two pickup trucks through thick mud without breaking stride. Pound for pound, cattle beat almost every large animal on the planet in raw pulling power. Horses don't even come close. So here's the question. Nobody asks. If cows are the stronger animal, why did humans build empires on horseback instead of cowback? Stick around, because the answer isn't about strength at all. It traces back 54 million years, long before either species existed in the form you know today. And once you see why, you'll never look at a farm the same way again. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching this from. I read every single one. 54 million years ago, the ancestor of every horse alive today was a small forest creature barely the size of a fox. It had toes instead of hooves, and teeth built for chewing soft leaves. Nothing about it suggested speed. Then the climate shifted. Forests thinned into open grassland, and prey animals with nowhere to hide had one option left: outrun everything that wanted to eat them. Over millions of generations, that pressure rebuilt the entire body from scratch. Toes fused into a single hard hoof that worked like a spring. Legs stretched longer with each generation. Lungs and hearts scaled up until a galloping horse could pump blood 8 times faster than at rest. One change mattered more than any other. Tall bone spines grew along the horse's upper back, forming a ridge we now call the withers. Nature didn't design that ridge for riders. It anchored the muscles that kept a galloping horse's heavy head from dragging it face first into the dirt. But by accident, that same ridge created a stable seat. A rider sitting just behind it sits directly over the horse's center of balance, locked in place by the animal's own skeleton. Nobody engineered the horse to be ridden. Evolution just happened to solve that exact problem millions of years before a human ever swung a leg over one. Cattle took the opposite path. Their wild ancestor, the aurochs, didn't live on open plains dodging predators. It lived along forest edges, where the winning strategy wasn't speed. It was mass. A creature that could stand its ground and shrug off an attack didn't need to sprint anywhere. That difference reshaped the entire skeleton. The bovine spine grew broad and flat instead of ridged. There's no withers to speak of, which sounds harmless until you actually try to sit there. A wide back forces a rider's legs into an awkward splay, with nothing to grip and nothing to stop them sliding side to side. And the instability gets worse the moment a cow tries to move fast. Horses gallop with a smooth, repeating rhythm a rider can learn to flow with. Cattle don't have that rhythm. Their bodies roll and lurch with every stride, partly because cattle walk on 2 split toes per foot instead of 1 solid hoof. That cloven hoof is great for balancing weight in soft mud at a walk. At a run, it creates a tiny wobble with every single step, and that wobble compounds into something closer to standing on a boat in rough water than riding an animal at all. Picture every problem stacking on top of the last one. No stable seat, no predictable gait, and we haven't even reached the deal breaker yet. Here's the barrier that ends the conversation for good. Horses sweat, and cattle basically can't. A working horse can pour out up to 15 liters of sweat an hour. That fluid spreads across the coat and evaporates, pulling heat away from the body fast enough to keep a horse working for hours under a hot sun. It's one of the most efficient cooling systems in the animal kingdom. Cattle have a fraction of that capacity. When they overheat, their main defense is panting, not sweating. And panting simply can't move heat fast enough once an animal is carrying weight and working hard. Give a horse and a cow the exact same job on a warm afternoon, and the horse settles into a steady rhythm for hours. The cow's internal temperature climbs past a safe threshold in under half an hour. Push further, and the animal risks collapse. This isn't a small gap that better breeding could close. It's the difference between a radiator built to shed heat while moving and a furnace with no exhaust. Heat stress already costs the American cattle industry hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And that's cattle just standing in a field, not carrying a rider anywhere. Even set the body aside for a second. The two animals think completely differently under pressure, and that gap matters just as much as anatomy. Horses are flight animals. Startle one, and its instinct is to run. And running is exactly the response a rider can shape. Apply leg pressure, and a horse moves forward away from it. Shift your weight, and it turns. That instinct is what makes a horse trainable. Its brain is already wired to follow a lead animal. And once a rider earns trust, the horse simply slots them into that role. Cattle don't offer that same wiring. Startle a cow, and you might get it to run, or freeze, or spin around and charge straight at whatever scared it. Their social structure isn't built around following one directional leader the way horse herds are. A rider on a cow isn't stepping into a familiar role in the animal's brain. To the cow, that rider is just unexpected weight that showed up out of nowhere. If this kind of deep dive into how evolution quietly shapes the world around us is your thing, hit subscribe now. This channel breaks down one hidden mechanism like this every single week, and you don't want to miss the next one. Humans didn't domesticate these animals for the same reason, and that choice ended up reshaping history. Cattle were tamed first, roughly 10,000 years ago, for meat, milk, and labor. Their strength made them perfect for dragging plows through heavy soil. Work that didn't require speed, just steady power. Horses came along thousands of years later on the grasslands of Central Asia, and almost immediately, humans figured out how to ride them. That single difference changed the pace of civilization itself. A person walking covers maybe 25 kilometers a day. A rider on a horse can cover 60 to 80. And with relay stations, messages could cross entire continents in days instead of months. The Persian Royal Road stretched over 2,000 kilometers, and mounted couriers crossed it in about a week, a trip that would take a walker close to 3 months. That speed decided how big an empire could grow. A government can only control territory it can respond to in time. Swap the horses for cattle on any of history's great trade routes or postal systems, and travel time roughly triples. Rebellions spread before help arrives. Borders shrink. The entire pace of human history slows down to match the animal underneath it. Now, cattle have been ridden here and there, and every exception actually proves the rule. In parts of Southeast Asia, water buffalo carry riders through flooded rice paddies, but they spend most of the day submerged in water that keeps them cool. The environment solves the overheating problem for them. In the high Tibetan Plateau, yaks get ridden across cold mountain passes where the temperature never gets high enough to overheat anything. In parts of Africa, certain cattle are mounted for short ceremonial rides, never for real travel or war. Every single case removes one of the disqualifying problems: heat, distance, or speed. And even then, nobody ever built a cavalry out of cattle. You might wonder if 10,000 years of selective breeding could eventually fix all this, the same way we bred wolves into chihuahuas. But the traits standing in the way aren't surface level. Narrowing a cow's back would wreck the wide pelvis it needs for birthing. Rebuilding its sweat glands would mean redesigning an entire organ system. And breeding away the cloven hoof would mean creating an animal that, by definition, isn't a cow anymore. You'd essentially be breeding a horse. And evolution already finished that project 54 million years ago. So the next time someone tells you cattle are the stronger animal, they're right, and it still doesn't matter. Strength was never the deciding factor. The horse won the job because millions of years of running from danger it never even had to think about happened to build the exact body a rider needed, long before any human showed up to notice. Quick gut check before you go. If evolution can accidentally build the perfect tool for a job millions of years in advance, What else is standing right in front of you, already built for something nobody's tested yet? If that question got you thinking, there's a video on your screen right now that goes even deeper. Go watch it.